Hey guys, it's Alicia and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be another reading vlog, but it's going to be slightly different. I know I said that in the last reading vlog that I put up because that one was centered around one book and that one is a spoiler reading vlog for Divine Rivals. And this video is going to be a spoiler reading vlog as well, but I'm going to be reading a whole trilogy, and that is going to be the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy by Holly Jackson. For this video, I'm just going to be reading the three main books in the trilogy. I didn't end up buying Killjoy. I might read that at some point, but a lot of people told me that it wasn't super necessary to read with these books. As always, I'll have timestamps down below if you want to skip around or know when the next book is going to start. Like I said, this video is going to have spoilers in it. I was contemplating if I wanted my thoughts for the first book to be spoiler free, but I'm just going to make the whole thing a spoiler video. So you've been warned. I said it. It's in the title and the thumbnail. So feel free to click off if you haven't read this or you don't want to be spoiled about anything. But if you have read the series or you don't care about being spoiled, then feel free to stay and watch this whole video, and I hope you guys enjoy it. But let's just get into this video. Alright guys, I just read to page 44. I wanted to do a little check-in right now because I went to see how long part 1 was, and it's only 100 pages, so I wanted to do one before I reach the end of the first part. And my initial thoughts with this book: I'm really enjoying it. There's mixed media elements in here, which I think is really cool. Like, they're showing text messages, and the style is different when she does interviews with people, so I really enjoyed that. I do like our main character, Pip, so far. Again, I'm only 44 pages in, so I haven't spent a whole lot of time with her, but I do like her. I do think that she might get in trouble for this assignment because in the very beginning, the teacher that she has told her that it's a very sensitive topic in case to focus on for her. I think it's called a Cornerstone project, they said, and that she can't cross any ethnical lines. But I feel like she's definitely going to do that if that wasn't already done with interviewing Sal's brother. So basically, I guess I didn't explain this. So the girl that disappeared, or we think is murdered, was Andy Bell, and the person that is the suspect or who got framed for the murder was her boyfriend, Sal, and he ended up committing suicide, so no one was really able to ask him questions or anything. But Pip believes that he's innocent, and even though there is evidence there, that it's not all concrete evidence, and she didn't like the way that people were writing about him in the newspaper, straight up calling him a murderer, even though they should have used the word allegedly. So the whole town basically already believed that he was a murderer before he was even proven guilty. So she's very annoyed with that fact that no one really stuck with the innocent until proven guilty, like saying, or mindset, or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, the whole point of her doing this is to try and prove his innocence. She did say in the beginning that she doesn't think she's obviously going to be able to figure out who it is, but she just wants to bring things to people's attention and possibly the police and make them think that maybe they didn't do as good as a job as they think they did, which I'm here for that. I love that. She's interviewing Robbie, which is Sal's brother, and I feel like that does tread on the ethnical line or boundary. I do like Robbie. Again, haven't spent much time with him, but the little bit that I've had of him already, I enjoy him as a character. So I hope we see more of him. I feel like we will, since he is Sal's brother. I feel like he'll play a bigger role in this. Plus, I heard the name Robbie a lot when people talk about this series. I don't know too much. I try and click off of things or keep scrolling if I feel like it's going to enter into spoiler territory. So I don't know a whole lot about this series, but I do know that people do like Robbie, so I'm led to believe he'll be in the story more and more. The first suspect that she has already is Andy Bell's dad, which I feel like could be very interesting if it was her dad, but I'm excited to keep reading this, and I will talk to you guys once I finish part 1. Alright guys, I just read to part 1. I read through page 99, so let's talk about some things. I'm really enjoying Pip's character more and more. I like how determined she is and how smart she is, and It's been fun seeing more things get revealed. She ended up talking to Ravi more, Sal's brother. There was this whole scene in the store where she stuck up for him because the lady at the cash register was being racist towards Ravi because he's Indian, and she sticks up for him, but she also stuck up for Ravi and their whole family when she was talking to a news reporter that reported on the case when it first was, all the information was coming out. I really liked seeing that in there. Her and Ravi have started talking more, and they agreed that they're going to talk to each other about their theories and ideas on what could have happened with his brother and who the real murderer could be and all of those things. So we are going to see more of Ravi. As of right now, the person that I'm leaning more towards that could be the suspect is Naomi, one of Pip's friend's sisters, because she was there that night. She actually, according to Ravi, had a crush on Sal, and when Pip interviewed her, her story was inconsistent with another friend that was there that night, and she was talking bad about Andy. But Pip also found more things out about Andy, and she wasn't like this really sweet girl that she thought she was. So we're just finding all of this juicy information out, and I'm eating it up. I'm loving it. Another reason why I think it could be Naomi is because part one ends with her camping with her friends, and she ends up getting this note basically telling her to stop looking into the case. And I feel like the person that's behind that has to know where she is or know that they were going to go camping. And Naomi's sister is with her while they're camping, so obviously they've talked about it. So that's another reason why I think it could be Naomi. But yeah, that's pretty much what's happening and where my thoughts are on the book. I don't think there's anything else that I wanted to say, but I'm going to keep reading this. I'm going through it pretty quick. I feel like I've only been reading for maybe a little over an hour, and I'm already on page 100, so I'm going through this very quickly. I definitely feel like I can finish this tonight. I don't know when I'll do another update because I don't know how many parts are supposed to be in here. I probably shouldn't flip through it in case I get spoiled, but I just want to know how many parts there are. So part 3 isn't until page 255, so I'm sure I'll do another update before I get to the end of part 2. But I am going to take a little break and I will jump right back into reading this, and I will talk to you guys again in my next update. Okay guys, it's way later in the day. I get so distracted so easily. I went and took a break. I went somewhere with my gram to help her run some errands, and then somehow I've lost track of time. I don't even want to say what time it is, honestly, but I finally read through all of part 2. And I really don't have much to say, honestly. I don't even know who to expect is the murderer. I feel like there has to be multiple murderers, or especially with the way part 2 ended, I already was kind of thinking that I feel like it has to be multiple people, but I also feel like I'm really bad at mysteries because I just end up suspecting everyone. Everyone is a suspect to me. So yeah, I don't really have any idea on where this is going. I'm ready for a plot twist to happen though. Like, I need a good plot twist. I am so tired, you guys, but I really want to try and keep reading. I might not be able to stay up, but I'm going to try my best. I don't know if I'll do another update before I go to bed. I might. We'll see. Also, can we just take a moment to talk about, like, how insane Pip is? Like, she's great. I love her. She's that girl. She's getting things done. She's solving this case. But she really is crossing those ethnical boundaries, like breaking into someone's home, walking up to a literal drug dealer's house and demanding answers. Like, girl, who does she think she is? Like, she thinks she's invincible, but I'm here for it. I'm enjoying it so much. And yeah, I'm just excited to keep reading this. I'm gonna go get comfortable, put on some PJs, take my makeup off, basically just get ready for bed and try and finish this book. So I will talk to you guys again in my next update.
Hey guys, it's not the next day, it's actually multiple days later. I did not end up finishing A Good Girl's Guide to Murder that night, the last time that I filmed this, and I wanted to read the next day, but some stuff came up. Life was a little chaotic. I didn't really have time to film. Then I was getting ready to go to my boyfriend's for Thanksgiving and celebrate with his family, and then I was driving home to celebrate with mine, and I didn't want to read or film while I was with anyone visiting people, so that's what pushed it off. And then during that, I also had a little bit of a cold. You might be able to tell from the sound of my voice. I'm feeling a lot better. I'm getting over it. But finally, almost a week later, I think, I finished A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and I feel like I didn't even have 100 pages left, and it took me so long to finally just sit down and read it. But we're here. Let's talk about my thoughts on this book. I really enjoyed my time reading this. I think I'm going to wait to do ratings for all of the books once I read all of them at the end of this video, so I'm not going to rate it yet. But this really kept me engaged. I was on the edge of my seat. There were a lot of twists at the end. I know I said that I really wanted a twist to happen, and the book delivered. Holly Jackson gave us so many twists. There was one little point in the book where I thought maybe Mr. Ward could be involved in the disappearance of Andy Bell, but I also was suspecting everyone. So I wasn't trying to think about it that much, and I quickly put it out of my mind because I was just so sure that it was Naomi, and I wasn't really expecting Becca Bell to have any part to play in it either. So I really liked the ending of this. It was stuff that I wasn't expecting. However, I'm really intrigued to see what the heck the other two books are going to be about because I just assumed that the story that this book was about was taking place over all three books. So I have no idea what to expect, but I'm really excited about it. I know that everyone says each book gets a little darker as the series progresses, so I'm intrigued yet a little nervous because I don't really do well with graphic things and gore, and this one I don't think had anything graphic in it, from what I remember at least. It was pretty chill in that department. So I don't know how intense it's going to get, so that's the only thing I'm nervous about, but I'm still really excited to keep going with this. It seems like Pip and Ravi are a couple now, which I'm really excited about. I love both of their characters so much. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I feel like I need to say. I am sad that Barney has passed. Her dog, that was insane to me, all of that happening. I didn't think something was going to happen to her dog. I hate when things happen to animals in books, so that made me really upset, and I don't want to think about it. I would never forgive anyone if someone killed my dog. I would go insane. So Pip's better than me. I don't know what that says about me, but she's better than me. And Pip is insane though, just breaking into people's homes and demanding answers from people at the end of this book when she just walked up to the house that Mr. Ward was at and demanding answers. I don't care if he's my best friend's father, that's basically a second father to me. If I found out that he had a part to play in the possible murder of somebody, which he did murder Sal, we found out, I would not have marched into that house and demanded answers the way she did and feel comfortable enough or trust him enough that he wouldn't harm me in any way. She has some guts, and I love it. So yeah, that's all my thoughts that I have for the first book. I really want to start reading the second book, so I'm going to do that right now. I don't know if this is going to be broken up into parts like the last one or not, so I'm not sure when I'll do an update, but I'll read a decent chunk, and then I will give you guys my first update.
Alright guys, I actually read quite a bit. I'm about a third of the way through, I think. I got to page 153, and I'm enjoying this book. I'm just not enjoying it as much as the first book. And I just feel like the pacing in this one is slower. I'm not as invested in the story like I was in the first book either. I mean, I'm still intrigued by the story. It's just not on the same level. And I heard a lot of people really liked this book the most. So I'm really expecting a lot of things to pick up in the last half of this. At least I hope it does. So we're following a new case in this book, which I kind of expected because everything was wrapped up pretty well in the first book. I didn't think that it was going to trickle over into this book, which I'm still kind of hoping that somehow it might tie in to things from the first book. I feel like that would be interesting. But basically, Pip has made a podcast and she's kind of doing it with Ravi. She's doing most of the work, but he helps her organize things and go over notes. And he actually came up with the name for the podcast, which is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which I thought was really funny, especially because Pip thought that it was a stupid name and didn't actually like the name. And she basically published a whole podcast about the case that happened in the first book. And she got people to sign papers that agreed to have their interviews that she recorded on the podcast in the episodes that she released. So that's really cool, and it like popped off on the charts, and a lot of people are following her podcast now and asking her if she's going to be doing a season 2, and she said that she doesn't really want to be a detective anymore or do that to herself because she became really obsessed with it, and it kind of overtook her entire life and put her and the people she cares about in danger, and she wasn't interested in doing that again. But one of her childhood friends, Connor, his brother Jamie, has gone missing. Shortly after this memorial service that was held, it was the 6th year of Sal and Andy Bell's death, and he went missing that night after the memorial. And Connor and his mother, Joanna, I believe her name is, are really stressed and desperate, and the police aren't doing anything to help, and they're asking Pip if she'll look into it, which I don't really know how to feel about that because they know how intense that got the first time, but I also understand being desperate. And Pip actually said no, but she decided to go to the police and try and convince like the sheriff to go through and try and look for him. They have all of these different factors that they go through to try and determine whether or not they should investigate a missing persons case. And Jamie's case just didn't hit all of those, and they said there's really nothing that they can do. So because the police aren't doing anything, Pip says that she'll investigate. So we're watching Pip start from scratch, really, because she doesn't have much to go off of. She starts interviewing Connor and Joanna, or Joanne, I still don't remember their mom's name. Their dad, Arthur, is a little sus. He's very mad. He doesn't like that Pip's doing anything. He won't do an interview. He is pretty much out of the house a lot. So he's like the only person that's really sus, but I feel like that'd be really, I don't know, like I just don't think it's actually going to be the dad. I'm not sure. We, even being a third of the way into the book, there's really not that much to go off of still. Like we're just still trying to piece like timelines and everything together from that night, from when he went missing to where no one can get a hold of him. So that's pretty much what's happening. And like I said, Ravi is helping her piece all of this information together. He's going to trials that are still being held from stuff from the first book and like relaying information back to Pip so she can do follow-up episodes for the first season of her podcast for her listeners. So all of that's going on. I really wish there was more of Ravi outside of the cases in here because they are dating now, and I just wanted to see more of their relationship outside of being overwhelmed by all of the missing person cases and craziness. Like that would be nice to see. I just don't think that that's going to happen, but I am liking that he's still in the story because I feel like he adds a lot of comedy. As much as I like Pip, Ravi brings a lot of humor to the book. Pip is funny, she's just very serious all the time, and I feel like he brings a lot of comedic relief. So I feel like it's needed sometimes in this book. But all we really know about Jamie right now is that he's been acting strangely the last few weeks leading up to this. He lost his job. He was seen at a calamity party with a bunch of high schoolers, and he's like 24, which is a little weird. And Pip's trying to piece together all of the photos and videos that people are sending in because since she's putting this out on her podcast, people can submit things to her through this email, and she's been getting all of this different evidence pieced together, and it's been fun seeing that happen. I just wish there was more happening, if that makes any sense. But I think I'm going to keep reading. It's really not that late right now. I don't know how much I'm going to read. I don't know if I'll update before I go to bed or sometime tomorrow. I just don't know. I think I'm going to wait until I get about 2/3 of the way through this book unless something crazy happens and I just want to talk about it. But I will talk to you guys again in the next update. Alright guys, it's the next day. I just got to page 270. I'm about 2/3 of the way through this book now. I think I have just over 100 pages left, and I do have some things to update you guys on. So we learned a lot more about things with Jamie. We found out he was actually being catfished, so that's the person that we think is responsible for him disappearing. And there was a bunch of other things too, with finding out different times where he was seen by people, so that timeline's getting pieced together more and more. One of Pip's neighbors caught him on their camera, their night vision camera for their house, him sneaking into the house for a very short period of time and stealing his wife's watch, which is the watch that Pip found towards the beginning or more middle of this book in his bedroom. So I'm interested to see what the watch has to do with anything. She had a Fitbit and she was able to check the last time it recorded his heart rate and steps and things like that. So that also went into more of a timeline for Jamie's appearance. They were able to get into his computer. So Pip is going to go through that and see if she can find anything else out. And I believe it's been like 5 days since Jamie's been missing and the police still haven't done anything about it. So Pip decided to organize a search party. Because of having the information from the Fitbit, she drew up like a perimeter of where she thinks he could be or where signs could be that he was there. So she actually put 3 different groups out for a search party. Someone ended up finding a knife that was actually missing from Jamie and Connor's house at the farmhouse or in the field of the farmhouse. And the farmhouse is where Andy Bell's body from the first book was discarded at. So I think things are going to tie into the first book a little bit. And the police officer, or one of the police officers that came when Pip called to tell them that she found evidence that was linked to Jamie's disappearance, was Daniel from the first book, and he was actually a suspect in the first book, and he was still acting very sus and weird and questioning Pip on if she planted it there and not really wanting to take the evidence in and just being really sketchy. And right where I ended off, they were following someone's car, which I think they said it was a VW bus, and Pip is pretty sure that it's Nat's boyfriend's car, and I don't think I mentioned that in a clip or not, but he was acting very sus when Pip came in trying to ask questions about things and Jamie's disappearance. So yeah, I think things are going to tie in from the first book into here, which will be really nice because I really wanted that, but I'm not really sure where this is going to go. Like I said, I feel like I suspect everyone, so I feel like I never really have good theories. There was one person where I was just a little skeptical of, and that was the neighbor that had footage of Jamie breaking into his house at night. And the only reason I was a little skeptical of him, I think his name was Charlie, is when they were making that profile to try and trick the catfish, it said that she lived within a mile radius. The author mentioned that he only lived 4 houses away, so he would have been within the radius. It was the day after they tried getting a hold of the catfish that he showed up to tell her that he had evidence, and he made some comment like people are really good at hiding who they are, and I don't know, just everything that he said with all of that seemed a little suspicious to me, but I could just be reading into things way too much because, like I said, I suspect everyone in a thriller book. So, I don't know, but I'm excited to keep reading this. I think I'm just gonna finish this today. I don't know if I'm gonna start the third one or not. We'll see. I think I'm just gonna try and binge the rest of this book right now, so I will talk to you guys once this book is done. You guys, I can't believe I called that. I'm so glad I included that in the video. I feel like no one would have believed me that I thought it was Charlie. I really thought I was reading into things too much. I am so proud of myself. I feel like that's the only time that that's gonna happen for me in the thriller where I'm able to correctly guess who's at fault. Like, what the heck? There was a lot of things that happened in the last 100 or so pages of this book. I don't know if I mentioned anything. I know I said that there were still episodes that Pip was making on her podcast about the events that happened um, in the first book, like trials that were being placed, and Max Hastings was being tried for rape and things like that, and sadly he was found not guilty. So that ended up happening, which makes me nervous because I feel like he's going to have it out for Pip. He never actually did anything towards her. He was just being very creepy, smiling, waving at her when he got out. And I feel like that's going to come into play in the third book potentially because this one, like, things were resolved, but not really. So I feel like Max is going to have some sort of place in the third book, but also Charlie, the guy that was behind the profile and was a catfish and was looking for. Oh my gosh, I have to explain that too. Okay, well, Charlie, he's also free, and I feel like he's going to come into the third book as well, possibly. So I have a feeling that Charlie and Max are both going to make an appearance in the last book in this trilogy. So let me explain other things. So, like I said, Charlie was the catfish, he was Layla, but the reason why he was catfishing Jamie and all these other people in town was because he was trying to find the new identity of somebody from his past. I forget all the specifics, but basically there was this guy named Child Brunswick, and he was a kid when this happened, but Child Brunswick's dad was a serial killer, and he made Child Brunswick help him lure victims and dispose of their bodies. But he was tried, but he wasn't really charged with anything, I think. Like, the government gave him a new name and, like, basically set him free. And Charlie's twin sister was the last victim of Child Brunswick and his dad's killing spree. So he was looking for the new identity of Child Brunswick. People were saying that they think he's in Fairview. So then we were also trying to figure out who Child Brunswick was, and it was Stanley Forbes, the news reporter, who ended up getting shot by Charlie. So I feel like things just ramped up very quick at the end of this book. Jamie's alive. Stanley Forbes was keeping him in his house, and they were trying to figure out the identity of Layla, but Jamie was locked up. It was a whole thing. If you've read the book, I'm assuming you've read the books. If you're watching this, you already know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to try and struggle through to explain everything that happened, but I really did enjoy the second half of this book more than the first. It definitely ramped up more. Also, Pip finally reached a breaking point. When Max was found innocent and not guilty during his trial, she started acting out more, and someone posted an article saying that they got a, like, tip, I think it's called, from somebody close to Pip saying that Jamie's not actually missing. It's basically like a publicity stunt type of thing, or it's set up so that she can have a second season of her podcast, which absolutely, like, just drove her to the end of madness, and she finally snapped, and some of her friends were believing that she was doing it and it was fake and that she was paying the family from sponsors and things like that. And she ended up blowing up on one of her friends at school and slamming him up against a locker, which got her suspended. She ended up painting on Max Hastings' house, like, "you rapist" or something like that. But yeah, freaking crazy. I have no idea what to expect for the third one, especially with the trauma at the end of this book for Pip. Like, she's still traumatized from everything that happened because she was there when Charlie shot Stanley. Stanley ended up dying. She was trying to give him CPR and it wasn't working. I'd be very, very surprised if she was somehow persuaded to do another case like this. I don't think that that one's going to be about that. I feel like maybe it's going to be more about her trying to get past or over all of these things that happened and her struggling with that, and then somehow Charlie and Max are going to play a part into this and not let her forget that all of this happened. That's my theory. Like I said, I've been very good at avoiding spoilers. I didn't even know she ended up making a podcast, which was super important for this book. So yeah, I don't think I've heard anything about the last book, and I'm just really excited to read it. I think I will start it tonight. I'm not sure how far I'll get, but that's what I'm going to do because I just want to keep reading these books and figure out what happens next. So, yeah, I did like the last half of this, but I still like the first one more. So that's where these books are ranked in my head so far. I'm going to go start the third book, and I will talk to you guys again in my next update. Okay, guys, I've only read 56 pages, but there's already a lot that I want to talk about. I wasn't planning on doing an update this early on in the book, but I don't want to forget to save some things. This book immediately starts with a different mood or like tone than the other two. Obviously, Pip is going through it. She's suffering really bad PTSD and reliving the trauma of the events of the last book and just hearing gunshots all the time in her head. Her thoughts drifting off to like dark places, thinking worst case scenarios, and she's just really out of it and going through it. She's been having a hard time sleeping, and she's been buying Xanax from Luke from the last book, Nat's ex-boyfriend, so that she can sleep better. And she has 6 burner phones, which is like insane, and she used one of them to get a hold of Luke. So I don't know if they were all used to get a hold of Luke or what the heck she's doing with 6 burner phones. She's been lying to her family and friends saying that she's okay. She was lying to therapists. They put her on some sort of prescription to help with the PTSD, but she was begging for more pills, and the doctor said that she should be able to get through it on her own and not rely on medication, and that's when she started taking Xanax to help fall asleep at night. There was a whole moment with her and Ravi where he was talking about how he'll always be there for her and things like that, but it's just really sad seeing Pip go through all of this. This book takes place, I think it said 3 months after the events that happened in the last book. Charlie is still on the run, he hasn't been found. And I was right, Max Hastings is playing a part in this book because Pip uploaded this audio clip of him basically saying that he did rape somebody to her podcast. He's suing her for doing that and trying to get money out of her. Like, I think it was like $23,000, but he was willing to lower the money amount in the lawsuit if she agreed to take down the clip from her podcast, which she already did, but she has to apologize and say that she tampered or doctored the audio file and basically say that it wasn't true and she messed with it to make it sound like his voice and it wasn't actually him. And she is saying over my dead body. Like, I will go to court over this. I'm not going to say that it's a lie when it's not and it's the truth. And I'm here for that. I'm here for her sticking up for the truth and not backing down. And everyone was trying to do I think it's called a mediation, they said. I don't know a bunch of trial court things, but basically they were trying to do that so they wouldn't have to go to court, so it costs less money for everybody. But she's like, no, I will go to court over this because you should not be free for everything that you've done. So that's also going on right now, and it's just making me so angry for Pip, but also all of the girls that are having to deal with Max being free right now. Like, it's just infuriating, and things like this happen all of the time in real life. And remember when I said I'd be surprised if anyone could convince Pip to do another case? Well, it seems like she doesn't need convincing because she is willing and wanting to do another case. She is leaving to go to college in a few weeks, and she heard about this Jane Doe case that had happened 9 years ago, and she somehow thinks that trying to solve this case is going to help her be able to cope and process everything that she's went through, which I really don't see how that's going to happen. So that's pretty much most of what's been happening. The last bit that I just finished, I think it was like within 2 days of each other. One day she went to leave her house and there was a dead pigeon on her porch. And then I think it was like the next day or a few days later, another dead pigeon was in the exact same spot on her porch, but it was also missing its head. And there's these weird chalk figures on her sidewalk outside of her house that looks like headless stick figures. In the last email she got, it said, "Who will look for you when you disappear? P.S. Always kill two birds with one stone." So someone's definitely threatening her, watching her, or something. Obviously, I'm concerned, but I also think that she's going to start going to college soon, so it'll be more of her on campus and working on this Jane Doe case. So that's everything that's happened so far. I did notice that it said part 1 in the beginning. I don't know how far into the book part 2 is, but I'm just going to keep reading until I feel like I need an update. I'm not going to make myself stop. I really just want to know what happens. So I will talk to you guys again in my next update. Hey guys, it's the next morning. I'm hoping that this audio picks up and it isn't iffy like that one clip that I did, because I'm holding it kind of far away from my mouth, because if I clip it right here, it's going to be right against my throat and I feel like it's going to be weird. So hopefully this is good. Apologies if you have to turn your volume up again. But I read to page 147 last night. I was so tired last night. I wanted to do an update. Well, I wanted to keep reading, but I needed to update you guys before anything else happened, because there's already a lot that I want to say again. But I just told myself to stop and go to bed and do this in the morning. So now we're here, and I'm going to try and go through all of the things that I want to talk about real quick so I can just get back to reading this. Because, dare I say, I'm enjoying this just as much, if not maybe more than the first book. Like, this one's really, really good. I also wrote everything down that I wanted to say on a piece of paper because I was worried I was going to forget things. If I'm remembering correctly, I mentioned the little chalk figures and the pigeons last night. So, to add to that, Pip goes running now, and she has the same route that she likes to take, or she has a few different routes, but she always does her cool down where she walks in a specific spot. And while she was doing her cool down walking, someone in chalk wrote "dead girl walking." So she took a picture of that. She ended up telling Ravi about everything that was going on. So Ravi was freaking out, understandably, and asked Pip to go to the police, which, why do we even bother at this point? Because they do nothing. Are we surprised? Pip went and talked to Hawkins, which I believe he's the sheriff of the police department there, and showed and told him all of these things. And he said there was no way to really determine that they were tied together and that it was directly attacking her, everything that she listed out to him. So, once again, she has to figure out what's going on. So, she's trying to figure out who her own stalker is. She's trying to look up the things that happened to her on the internet, and this article pulls up about the DT killer, who is a serial killer but was also a stalker, and they're reading all of this stuff about him, and Ravi is absolutely losing his mind, freaking out. Someone did confess to the crimes and was arrested, so she's not really worried about that, but they started looking into things more and more, and he might not have been the actual killer. In this article, one of the sisters of the victims, I think it was the last victim that was taken, mentioned how her sister was acting strange the week before. She was getting these weird, like, prank calls, and she was mentioning chalk figures and dead animals or pigeons, very similar. So that's why Ravi's freaking out, thinking that the killer's out there or someone who's trying to mimic this person. So Pip does a little more digging. And further in that article, there was like a sketch drawn up of who they think or witnesses think that the person looked like. And it doesn't really look like the guy that confessed and was arrested. And the article also said that the person that's committing these crimes might have strong opinions on women, how they should act in order to be acceptable and how they look, which instantly raised an alarm in my head. So this is my theory, and I have more evidence to prove this. So let me say a few more things then, I guess, before I say my theory. So that was said, and they also said that trophies were taken from the victims, because that's what a lot of serial killers do. They like keep a memento to remember their victims, and they went through a whole list of what was taken. And I kept note of that because I had my theory go off when I read the first part, and then I saw that, and I was like, okay, I'm going to keep that in mind, because remember, I thought I was looking too much into the whole Charlie thing in book 2, but I think I'm right on this theory as well. But bear with me because I still have to say a few more things. So the person that was arrested and charged was Billy, and his mom actually has a Facebook page trying to prove his innocence. So Pip gets a hold of him and is talking to her and is reading court cases, and he was very obviously coerced into confessing. He was in there for 9 hours, like the police were just trying to pin the blame on somebody, and Pip found out that Billy worked at the company that Jason Bell owns. So Jason Bell is Andy Bell's dad, the girl that went missing and was murdered in the first book. So Jason Bell is back in the picture, and a lot of the murder weapons or things that were used to kill these victims were things from the work company. So Jason Bell's now involved, and I think that he is the DT killer, and this is why. In book 1, it was known that Jason Bell wasn't a really good father figure. He was always telling his daughters how to look, how to dress, even with his wife, so that fits the description, which was the first alarm bell that went off in my head. And then Pip, being Pip, decided to go to the Bell residence to try and talk to Jason and ask him about Billy and him working at his company, and while she was walking there, she saw Dawn, his wife, walking, and the author specifically mentioned her messing with a gold chain and playing with a pendant on her necklace. So I don't know why she wouldn't just say was playing with her necklace as she was walking. She went very in detail about the necklace, and I went back to where they were talking about all of the trophies, and one of the things that was taken was a gold pendant necklace. And I wrote it down so I remembered exactly what it said was a gold chain with an antique gold styled pendant. Basically what Dawn was wearing, his wife, which is just so messed up if it is him and he gave that to his wife as a present. But that's my theory. And when Pip was asking him questions, he got really ticked, which is already justifiable because obviously all of this stuff happened with both of his daughters. He doesn't really have anything left anymore, and now she's bringing up something else. So, like, that is justifiable. But since I'm already suspicious of him, that just gave me another reason to think that it's Jason Bell. So, yeah, that's my theory. I'm putting it out there now. I don't know if knowing it was Charlie in the second book was very obvious, and I was like way too proud of myself for that. But I don't know if it's supposed to be obvious that it's Jason. But I'm proud of myself right now if I got it right. And I'm almost positive that I'm right. So, yeah, that's pretty much everything that happened that I wrote down that I can remember. I don't think I'm missing anything from my notes. Something that Ravi noticed was that in the article, the last or one of the victims mentioned seeing 3 stick people, and she's seen 5, and there's already been 5 victims now of this killer. So Ravi thinks that the stick figures represent the number of people that he's already killed. So yeah, very creepy, unsettling, but I'm loving this book. I really don't read a lot of thrillers, but I love suspense, and this book has a lot of suspense in it. So I'm really enjoying it, and I'm excited to just keep reading, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. This might be one of my favorite series that I've read this year, now that I'm thinking about it. Like, it's definitely up there. I'm just going to do what I did yesterday and keep reading until I feel like I have a lot of stuff that I need to update you guys on. So I will talk to you again in the next update. You guys, I just reached the end of part 2, and I was correct. But I wrote something down to prove my point more. I didn't think everything that happened was just gonna happen because I noticed the hairbrush and I wanted to bring that up, and then she was taken and she escaped, and now she just killed him. I did not expect this to happen. I have no idea where this. What? Like, my mind is just so scattered right now. I still have half of this book to read, you guys. Like, what the heck happens? I hope other people were as shocked as I was reading this because I did not see that coming. I saw her escaping, but I didn't see her killing him. I have no idea what to expect, and I just wanted to hop in real quick to say that, and I'm going to keep reading, and I will talk to you again soon. Alright, you guys, it's a little bit later. I ended up moving up to my room because the sun went down and the lighting was getting bad in the back room of my house. So I'm on page 284 now, and I did not expect this book to be going where it's going, but it's so good. There's a few things that I forgot to mention in that last clip because my brain was just going a million miles per hour, but I wrote things down again. I was not expecting. I mean, Jason is Andy's dad, so I wouldn't be surprised if Andy was brought up again, but I didn't think she was going to play such a pivotal role in this, and Pip found out she had like a burner email, if you will, like a separate email than the one she always used, and in there she had a draft saying that she knew who the DT killer was. She felt unsafe at home, and she was trying to save up money to escape, and she was willing to do anything to get out of Fairview and go to Yale possibly with Sal, which is why she was trying to see Mr. Ward. And oh my god, Jason killing Barney, drowning Barney. I would have done the exact same thing. I'm here to support women's wrongs, and even though murder is not okay, I support Pip's actions. I support it. And she went John Wick on him, and I would have done the exact same thing. I don't hold anything against Pip at all. However, she did now, the last few, like 40 pages that I read since the last little mini update, she got a hold of Ravi using Jason's burner phone, and her and Ravi are now trying to cover up this murder and blame it on Max. I don't know how well this is going to go. Obviously, I'm hoping that they can pull it off, but that's what's happening right now. I need to take a break because I've been reading for a while, so I don't know when I'm going to start reading again. I do want to read more tonight, but I will talk to you guys again later. Alright guys, it's the next morning. As you could tell last night, I was very tired. Maybe you couldn't tell, but I stayed up pretty late to finish the book, and even though I wanted to end the video there, I could not articulate full thoughts. So let's talk about my final thoughts on As Good as Dead, and then I will tell you what I'm rating all of the books. I really enjoyed this book. There was like a few moments towards the end that I kind of didn't enjoy it as much, just because I feel like some of the things Pip was doing wasn't like her character. And obviously, Pip in this book is not the same Pip in book 1, but I just still feel like she made some decisions that didn't really make sense for her character. But I still thoroughly enjoyed this. I can't believe she got away with it. I mean, I can, but I can't. Because I completely forgot about her headphones. I wasn't even thinking about that. And then Ravi came through and saved the day. And I know that this series is a mystery thriller YA series, but I feel like this one was the most thrillery out of the 3 of them, and the first 2 were more mystery. So let me tell you my rankings for each of the books from favorite to least favorite and what I'm rating them. My favorite book out of this series was book 1, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and I'm going to give this one 5 stars because I have no complaints for this book. I really enjoyed it. I read this one really quick. If I didn't take that many days of a break in between, I would have finished this in like a day and a half, not even. My next favorite was book 3, As Good as Dead, and I'm going to give this one a 4.5 stars. Even though I really liked this one, it was just under book 1, and that's because of Pip's actions, and I know the author needs to get from point A to B by the end of the book, but I feel like she could have still done that by making Pip do things that just made more sense for her character, in my opinion. And then my least favorite was book 2, Good Girl, Bad Blood, but I'm still giving this one a 4-star rating. I just feel like the pacing was really slow for most of it. I really liked the end. I just didn't care as much in the beginning of this book like I did for the other 2 books in this series, so that's why this one's getting a 4-star. So if my math is right, that would, if I added those ratings up and divided by 3 for the series rating, because that's what I usually do when I'm done with this series, I do like a whole rating for the entire series. 5 plus 4 plus 4.5 divided by 3 should be 4.5 stars. So I'm giving this whole series a 4.5-star rating. I really enjoyed my time. I definitely think it's worth picking up. I'm really interested in reading Killjoy now. That's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sure it's a little all over the place because, like I said in the beginning, I've never done a video like this where I've read an entire series for one video before. So just let me know your feedback in the comments if you enjoyed this, if there's something I could do differently. I'm open to feedback. I feel like I don't need to go so in depth with what I just read. But sometimes, like when I'm doing my theories, I feel like it's necessary. I feel like I got a little carried away summarizing things when I was doing updates, but I will get better at this, I promise. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos from me. As always, I'll have my more recent YouTube videos linked in the description, as well as my social media if you're interested in following me on any of those. I have a Bookstagram and a BookTok account. I hope you're having a good day whenever you're watching this, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!